Well, our little RC is coming together pretty well. Just waiting on tires. So in the meantime, we're moving on to, well, something used to be sitting right over there. We have a case. SC. This was supposed to be my spring project, but then a Farmall H and an Alice Chalmers RC sort of butted their way in. Tractor Tom and I got this thing running last fall very unexpectedly, and it actually runs really nice. But we also discovered, what I'm going to be working on here today, we got a pretty good radiator leak. So hose down all our bolts with penetrating oil, and well, we're going to try and get this apart, get that radiator out so I can get that thing repaired. You'll probably notice real quick, like, I don't know what I'm doing with these things. I don't think I've ever put a wrench to a case tractor before. So I don't know how many of these nuts and bolts have to come loose, if I can just take off this panel here, or I guess we'll see. I don't want to take off more than I have to, but it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience for me. I kind of already did a check for flying creatures and nothing flew out at me, so I'm hoping she's safe to work on. Well, I got this out for a reason. Allow this to come loose. Yeah, actually it kind of does. Put that out of the way. Yeah, maybe not. Well, now while those cool off, maybe I'll give you a quick walk around of this thing. So I'm not going to want to touch those things there for a minute. This tractor came from a farm about 3 miles south of my place. Had an old gentleman stop in one day when I was out and about in the yard, and he knew I liked old tractors, and he says, "You got to get down there. They're dragging all these Alice Chalmers tractors out of the woods. Somebody's got to intervene, or they're just going to get sent out for scrap metal." So I went down there, and nobody was home, but I could see the tractors lined up out in the field, and every time I drove by, there was more of them and more of them. Even from the road, a quarter mile away, I'm looking at the shape, and I'm like, those look more like Case than Alice Chalmers. I guess in his defense, I mean, the colors between the two are not that much different. So nobody was ever home when I stopped in. Eventually they saw there was a sign up. They're going to have an auction. Here the old timer passed away, and that's why nobody was ever home. So I went to the open house, checked out all these tractors, and you know, I like a certain era of tractors. They had almost exclusively Case tractors, but they had stuff all the way up into the 1980s, I think. So of the vintage that I like, which are 1940s, give or take, there's probably 25 tractors there, and 2 of them were not seized up. So I bought one of the two where the engine still spun over on them. I know nothing about the history of the tractor. Beyond that, that was the other weird thing. See how this has got the 3-point hitch or the eagle hitch? I bet you 75% of those tractors at that place had the eagle hitch. And that's not a standard option. You know, that's kind of like, in my mind, fairly desirable these days. So this one had wheel weights and an eagle hitch, but it did not have fenders. And the other one that the engine was loose on, that one had fenders. And I bid on that one also. I also bid on a third one for parts. And I'm really kicking myself that I didn't bid that one up a little bit more. That parts tractor had really nice fenders on it. The engine was seized up, but oh well. I knew ahead of time that I wasn't going to be able to save all of them. So I don't know if it's standard or not, but this particular tractor's got a hand clutch right there. Beyond that, all we really did to get it running, cleaned up some of our electrical connections, obviously sanded the points, drained the crud that was in the gas tank, put a new sediment bowl in, and I think we cleaned the battery cables. That was quite literally it. We cranked her over a few times and it fired and ran and drove. Went to put antifreeze in it and found out, yeah, that's kind of a waste of time right now. So parked it for the winter, knowing I'd get around to it this spring, and well, here it is almost the end of June and I'm finally getting around to it. So the only thing I've done to this machine work-wise, I changed the oil and filter after we parked it last fall. So it honestly has not ran since. It's got a full tank of gas, and then, you know, you saw I robbed these wheels and tires off that Farmall H just because this case I have every intention of keeping. So now it's got decent rubber on it, and it's a nice running tractor, and we get this radiator squared away, I'll be able to start playing with it a little bit. Actually, probably a lot. So, fun fact, that would have been probably November that I bought this. I forget which one of these two front tires was flat. So, well, let's just put some air in it and see what happens. Well, here we are 6 or 7 months later. It has not leaked. So, I'll take it. So, the other thing, Tractor Tom, being much more keen-eyed than I am, he noticed this right here is actually where they put the hand crank. So it wasn't until after I'd already bought the tractor, got it home, and realized that it actually has a hand crank too. So this is somebody's converted this to 12 volt. I'm sure I'm going to leave it that way. I have no idea if this alternator works. We'll find out. Don't know if they went to the trouble of switching the lights over to 12 volts or not. I wouldn't be surprised if we're into that carburetor at some point for a cleaning, if nothing else, but it was running really, really well. Surprisingly well. And this is one I don't see too much left on it. I think I did a pretty good job peeling all the vines off of this thing, but this thing was growing up in brush and brambles and vines, and this wasn't the only one. Pretty much all of these old machines were like that at that auction, but man, she was tough looking, and it still isn't much to look at, but it's reasonably straight sheet metal, and well, like I say, it's a nice running tractor with a 3-point hitch. Should be a lot of fun. The only thing I'm really a little concerned about knowing that this radiator was kind of flaky, I started looking around for a replacement. And well, I'm really surprised. I cannot find new parts for this tractor hardly at all. That includes radiator. I've scoured the internet. I've looked for used parts from our local salvage yards and case collectors. I know ahead of time this radiator, whatever that I take out, is going to have to be repaired and put back in, because I cannot find anything else to replace it with. I would just as soon put a brand new one in there and be done with it, but that doesn't seem to be an option. But there is a radiator repair shop on my way to work. Was he 2 miles out of the way or so? He's a little bit slow, but he's really good at what he does. Since I don't really need this thing for any real urgent projects, if it takes him the rest of the summer to fix it, that's fine. Wow. Might have to heat that up again. There we go. I actually twisted it off. There we go. Wow. There's not a single wasp nest in there. And since I think it's just these two bolts holding on, look at all that original paint underneath there. This was a nice looking tractor at one time. I dare say someday it will again, as long as I get to keep it. Nope. Well, that was lots of fun. Now while that cools off, let me see about loosening these clamps. This hose is, well, it's not soft. I have a feeling it's not coming out of there without a utility knife. Okay, alternator. You need to go. Why are you being stubborn? There you go. Okay. Fluffy, you are a good helper, kitty. What do you see? You see another kitty out there? Why didn't you go get that other kitty? Tell that kitty to get out of the road. Bonehead. Yeah, you're smart, aren't you? You stay back here where it's safe. And help with tractors. Well, how much room did that give us? A bit more. She's pretty rough down in there. Like, I'm gonna have to do some excavating here just to get to this bottom hose clamp. We'll see. It looks like lots of fun. Which means I think this will come out. It's just that lower radiator hose. It's hanging up on there. Really not too bad. Granted, it's been sealed up this entire time, I guess, but that's still not too bad. We'll let it run for a little bit. I wonder if I can plug it up this outlet and see where it's leaking. Bring it a little closer just in case it works. As I recall, it should be somewhere over in here. Okay, that's leaking right there. Good helper, kitty. That really is the only leak I'm seeing. And I think that's the overflow tube. So what the heck? Case. I didn't pull you all apart for nothing, did I? Now let's try this another way. See if we can find if and where this thing is leaking from. Got my regulator turned down to about 15 psi. I got a little leak around the cap, which is normal. And I got the bottom hose plugged off down here. I've filled the entire block with water. So we'll put this other top hose on here. There you go. Just so we can give it that same 15 psi pressure and just see if we find any leaks anywhere. It's be frustrating if we don't find any leaks because I know that it was leaking. But on the same hand, if it was that upper radiator hose, that's a pretty simple fix. So, all right, let's put some pressure through that. Okay, it's leaking a little bit. There we go. There's our leak. Coming right out of the water pump. So, now is a good time to know about that. Because I got all that crap out of the way. The radiator and all sheet metal and everything, so changing the water pump this is a good time to do it. I dare say we're probably going to be looking at a new belt as well. And what else can we do? Obviously we're putting new hoses in it. New thermostat, assuming there's one maybe in this base area. And that. Yeah. Let's see here. Honestly, I think it's leaking out of this gasket right here. I don't think it's leaking out of the seal in the water pump itself. I can't see it running down inside of there. So maybe we'll just take it apart and see what it looks like. Since obviously we need to put a new gasket in it regardless. Well, I'm gonna get a new water pump and a new fan belt and a new thermostat if I can find one. I'll get those on order, and I think we'll continue this project after those parts show up.